So let's talk about alcohol, or at least my experience with it. So my first experience with alcohol was like when I was a teenager, right? Like my dad used to always drink beer a lot, and every once in a while he would hand me his beer just to get a little taste of it, Being a teenager, I absolutely hated the taste of it, right? And I always thought I would feel that way. I remember being like absolutely opposed to drinking as a teenager because of how bad it tasted. And I always thought to myself, like, who would ever want to just do this just to get a little weird feeling? As a teenager, you just think it's a weird feeling, but as an adult, you kind of see some of the, I guess, I don't want to use the word benefits, but that's the word I'm going to use. You see the benefits of, using alcohol, at least, in social situations. It makes you more, more talkative. It makes you more gregarious. It makes you more interesting. Is how some people feel. Like they use it almost as like a replacement for their personality, right? If you are talking to somebody that you don't feel like you can get along with, or someone you feel like you don't really share a whole lot of interest with, alcohol kind of acts like a social lubricant where you can actually talk to that person and engage with them, at least over just the fact that you're more talkative over alcohol. And in the moment, it feels good, right? Like drinking a little bit of alcohol, kind of takes the edge off. You stop thinking, and you get outside of your head, and that's where most of our worst problems live, right? All of our anxieties and fears are when you're stuck inside your head. Like that's one of the things weed at least does for me, is like it makes me turn inward and start thinking and get real panicky. I remember the first time I ever tried weed, I pretty much had a panic attack. I was just sitting perfectly still, but my heart was racing. I was sweating profusely, and I've never had that experience with alcohol, at least. And alcohol is so normalized in our society now, right? Like, think of all the commercials you see for alcohol every day, and advertisements you see out in public and on the street, and weed still has a bit of a taboo around it. It's more popular now than it was, and it's slowly becoming normalized, but we're nowhere near the point where it is with alcohol, right? Because it's legal, it's taxed, it's regulated. They've got laws around who can have it and who can't have it, and where you can have it, and what places you can and cannot be drunk, and what you can be doing while you're drunk, because you can't drive cars and operate machinery, right? The laws haven't caught up to weed like that yet. So that's one of the good things about it being so popular and so regulated and basically accepted into mainstream society. But over the long term, it has some nasty, nasty side effects and nasty, nasty problems with it. Let's address the immediate, obvious one, right? The hangover. I've heard somebody describe it as you're taking yesterday's joy, or you're taking tomorrow's joy and living it today, right? So what they mean by that is when you wake up after that night of being out at the club and drinking really heavy, you're gonna feel like shit. Being hungover from alcohol is like one of the worst hangovers, right? I think only maybe the hardest of hard drugs are probably worse, but as far as like legal drugs that anybody can get, alcohol's got to be one of the worst ones. You wake up wanting to throw up, your head hurts, and you just generally feel miserable. And as you get older, you start to feel like you don't get over the hangovers as quickly. So when I was drinking as a teenager, I'd recover from a hangover in like not even like 12 hours a day, maybe. Now, being 30, when I drink, it takes me at least 2 to 3 days to fully recover. And even after the 3 days, I still feel a little hazy. Sometimes the only way I can ever feel relief from one of those hangovers is to just force myself to throw up. And it's like instant relief. You're still hungover as hell. You still feel miserable, but if you're on like a scale of 10 miserable pre-vomiting, you're at like a 5 out of 10 after. It's night and day different. And let's talk about how it just destroys your decision making, right? I think we've all had those experiences where we just made the dumbest, most awful decisions while we were drunk, right? One of the leading causes of death across the U.S. is drunk drivers, and how often they get behind the wheel because their inhibitions are lowered and their decision making's worse, so they think they're okay enough to get behind the car and drive, and where you know what, they've taken somebody else's life and sometimes even their own, and it just ruins lives. Like, ruins your life, and situations like that, you ruin the life of other people. And I was never that bad with alcohol, and I never, felt like the urge to go do anything that would have cost somebody else their life in that way. I usually have a little more sense than that, but I've definitely made my fair share of stupid decisions, like, making bonfires out in the forest, or jumping off of cliffs into bodies of water, or just stupid shit that could have easily got me severely injured or hurt. But if I was sober, I would have never done. Sitting on top of balcony rails and just kind of just doing stupid shit. I look back at some of the situations alcohol has put me in, and I feel like I'm just lucky to be alive, right? Like, some of these situations could have easily just killed me if I had just been a little less careful, or if I just made one more bad decision. If I had just not stopped at the one bad decision that's been saving my life, it could have been really bad for me. And to say nothing about all the negative health effects, right? Like, it fucks up your brain, it fucks up your liver, it fucks up your stomach, it fucks up every organ in your body, right? It's amazing to me how it's not considered almost as bad as smoking, right? Smoking is vilified as like the worst thing ever, which, yeah, I mean, it's not great, but are we really going to sit here and pretend like alcohol was all that better? And like, at least with cigarettes, right? Like, it's a slow burning death, and usually you only affect you with smoking. There's secondhand smoke, and that kills people too. But alcohol, you can do way more damage way quicker with way too many drinks in one instance. It's pretty hard to kill somebody else with a cigarette, at least immediately, right? You can't think of too many scenarios where you throwing a cigarette at somebody and it's killed them. Or plenty of bar brawls, though. Drunk people get into fights. They're rowdy. They're aggressive. They're hard to control emotionally. And for the most part, drunk people are pretty unpleasant to be around. Like, it's seen as like the social lubricant, but there's been plenty of times where if you're the only sober person at a place where everybody's drunk, it's not fun. You just feel like the odd one out, and everybody around you is just being senseless when you feel like the voice of reason in the room. And I've had a run with being drunk quite a lot in my life, and I've had jobs where I've really hated the job, and every day before I'd go into work, I'd get plastered. I would just get as absolutely drunk as I could just to make it through the job. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there that were using it as a coping mechanism like I was, where just the thought of being sober at work was just like the worst thing ever. And I just wanted to just be as drunk as I could so I could just make it through the day. And I look back on those times, and I'm glad I made it out, and now I've gotten to where I can have a drink or two and just not feel the urge to just keep drinking and drinking and drinking until I'm just ready to pass out, right? But that's why I titled this video I've almost quit drinking, because I haven't fully quit drinking. I still have some beers, like once a month, maybe every 2 months. Pretty reasonable responsible amount of drinking. I'm even trying to cut that out now, though, because I just don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like having to recover from the hangover. I don't like the way it kind of breaks your focus, right? Like, it kind of ruins your discipline for a little while too, because if you had any plans to like make a YouTube video or go work out or do some meditation, and it's a vicious cycle too, right? Because once you've had that drink and you realize that it makes you feel better in certain situations, you just always want to have it. It's like any other addiction, right? Once you get to the point where you feel like you need it, it's going to control you. And I've come to the point in my life where I just don't want any vice, any drug, any addiction to control me like that. Now I try to build good habits. I try to meditate often. I try to work out at least a couple times a week. I try to, produce at least a YouTube video or two every week. And all these good habits have a way of stacking on each other. And that's the main thing I want to get across in this video. Is it's okay to, have fun and go party and, get drunk every once in a while. As long as you're doing it responsibly, right? That's the key. You got to do things responsibly. And you want to try to have more good habits than bad habits. And I want to be perfectly clear when I say this, guys. It's a poison. The ideal amount of alcohol, realistically, is 0. And I think the goal for most people should be to trend to 0. It's way too normal to get as drunk as you can at parties and clubs and when you're hanging out with your friends, but it's just not good for you, bro. Like, it's a poison. And ideally, you should try to cut it from your life entirely. And I think for most people, once you realize you can cut it out of your life, you'll feel a lot better. You're more focused, you're more alert. You just feel better throughout the day. And on weekends, if you can break the habit of wanting to go out for drinks with your friends, you realize you feel better most of the time. And you can actually have real, genuine conversations with them. And it's not just, I'm drunk because I'm with my friends and that's what we do. I think there's too many friend groups that do that, and it's time to get out of it. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Share with me your stories with drinking, and how do you feel? Am I off base? Is it okay to have it in your life? Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.